My name is Paul Cross. I'm the Director of Design for Ubi San Francisco.
What were the kind of things that you kind of saw in the first game that you wanted to improve for this one?
Okay, so the first game was hilarious. Absolutely no doubt, probably the funniest video game ever made. So we know we've got to be as funny as a minimum bar. But then what we really wanted to do was look at the combat and look at some of the RPG elements, see how we can make the game deeper and more involving for the gamers out there. So that seemed to be the number one thing that they wanted more of.
So how did the tactical grid system evolve? Where did that come from?
So when we first sat down with Matt and Trey and started talking about how we're going to make a sequel, you know, Trey's a big board gamer. So he really wanted to create that feeling of playing a board game. So he started to say, well, what does that mean? How are we going to do that? How are we going to do that and still keep it as South Park? So we started to lay it out and talk about, well, how can we have the powers so that you're not like covering each other up and facing into screen? How can we have it so that they're going to line up sideways, horizontally? So we started to develop this system and look at the left, right, and the diagonals and the cardinal cross powers, and then distributing them across different players, different characters. So each and every one then becomes different. And then we started to talk about, well, we've got to have classes and make those special and unique. And then we were like, wouldn't it be cool to dual class? Wouldn't it be cool if we have a character that has 4 powers and then another class that has another 4 powers, but then allow the player to mix and match however they want, which means they're going to be able to create their custom class.
Right, how many sort of custom classes are there overall? Because there's so many and you can mix them up. It seems there's a lot of combinations.
There are, yeah. So you've got 12 classes, 4 powers each, so you can do the math. Sure. A lot.
You probably get asked this a lot as well. Obviously Matt and Trey, obviously very linked with South Park, it's their baby. How kind of heavily involved with the game are they? Because obviously they presumably sign off on everything, but just how much do they get involved?
So writing teams have a meeting every day. We meet with Matt and Trey regularly, both together, to talk about not just the story, not just about the script, but also about the game mechanics. So it's easy to think of it as, well, Matt and Trey do the writing and we make the game and we sort of merge it together. But making a great video game, you need everything to work together. So we started off by talking to them not only about the first game, but what would the scenarios be like? Knowing that they want to make a superhero game, that's a hot topic right now. They want to make a superhero game, kids playing superheroes. What are the sort of things that can happen? And then as we're going through that, we're thinking about, well, what can we do mechanically to make that interesting? How can we have you interact with the humor? So, farting. We keep talking about farting. It's certainly not the only thing in the game, but it's something that's quite unique. And I always wanted to make something that was a very visceral farting experience. So when we talked about that, we were like, well, how would that feel? And Trey would be there kind of trying to act it out and explain how he wants it. And then we were like, okay, so what about if you clench and then use the sticks to essentially manipulate your butt cheeks so that you can shape your fart? And he was rather pleased with that.
Sounds like a normal everyday game design meeting, that. Yeah.
It's amazing how many ridiculous conversations we have with very serious faces.
The first game kind of tied in directly with the TV show as well. I believe, didn't one of the episodes end with buy the game or whatever?
Pretty much.
Similar kind of thing happening with this?
Can't promise that, because if you know the way they work, they're talking 6 days to air. I mean, they literally make an episode in 6 days, and they'll be riffing off of whatever is a hot subject at that moment, on the first day.
Beyond the kind of combat stuff that's new and the other things we've seen, like the farting stuff, what other kind of new features are you excited about for the new South Park?
So we're really trying to figure out how can we keep the main story really tight and get those jokes, the timing just really work well, just like you're playing through a couple of seasons back to back, essentially. We're also really trying to look at how we flesh out the world to make lots of interesting areas to explore and surprises and puzzles and secrets, so that you can have that feeling of there's some things you find yourself, and there are other things you might go on the internet and try and look up, so you're trying to figure it out, or talking with your friends about how did they find it, how did they get that costume piece. That's they're the things I can talk about without giving away some of the stuff that you'll see later.
Also, the last game had a few bits that were censored for the European market. Do you know if you're going to have any material in this one that's going to go through a similar kind of
So
similar thing?
we're trying to be mindful about what things, we're here in Germany talking today, there are certain things here that we're just trying to avoid because there's no point in going through the pain of it. But again, Matt and Trey, the way they work is that they're not going to be censored. They don't want to be censored. They are going to write what they think is funny and relevant and tells the story that they want to tell. So we're going to work with the ratings boards to give you the full experience that we possibly can. We'll encourage not putting in things that are going to get it banned in Australia kind of situation. I can't promise, because we're still going to be working with the creatives to deliver the story that they want to truly deliver.
Cool. Obviously, going back to working with Matt and Trey, they kind of write the story and have final say. Do you get much input from a story perspective to be creative and add your own kind of spin on things?
So we're not funny, they are. That's the way, a sort of simple way of thinking of it. We might be funny down the pub, but that's a different situation to really writing and crafting a script the way that they do. So what we're always trying to do is create inspiration, trying to create the holes and say, hey, here you go. Wouldn't this be brilliant if someone could do something here? And a few times we get met with, well, not that. But we'll come back with something and they'll come back with a script that is filling that hole and serving the purpose, because normally we're looking at from the point of view of how do we get the player to move to this part of the world? How do we get them to walk past this puzzle and see it? There's those kinds of situations. But we're not necessarily starting at the point where we're thinking, how can we tell a great joke? So again, that relationship of they're writing an absolutely hilarious story and really worrying about the game mechanics, and then we're just trying to marry those all the way through and providing inspiration back and forth as that goes.
And speaking of inspiration, where did the Nosulus Rift come from?
Oh, the Nosulus Rift. So that was actually an idea from our marketing department, who were looking for something that would really make we talk about a visceral farting experience. What's more visceral than actually feeling the fart in your face? So, there.
Is that something just for the Gamescom audience, or is that going to be sold?
So we have prototypes here. I can't promise that it's ever going to become available to an open market, but the response has been pretty phenomenal.
I didn't want to have to do this, but you leave me no choice.
Did I just hear someone use a microaggression?